Welcome to my YouTube channel. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. They hand it to a cashier, toss it in a tip jar, or let it disappear under a car seat without a second thought. Because to the average eye, it looks like every other 10-cent piece out there. But the 2022 P1 dime has a secret most people will never notice until it's too late. A secret born not from what it was meant to be, but from the tiny flaws, overlooked mistakes, and incredible rarities that slipped through the minting process and into circulation. And what makes this story even more mind-bending is that while millions of these coins were produced in Philadelphia, just a few extraordinary examples have been discovered with errors so bizarre and so scarce that they've been known to fetch jaw-dropping amounts. In fact, one special 2022 P-dime with a perfect storm of condition and error details has been valued at an astonishing $190 million. And yes, you heard that correctly. One little coin the size of your fingertip could be worth more than skyscrapers, sports cars, or entire neighborhoods. And before you think that's impossible, stay with me, because in a moment I'll tell you exactly what makes this coin so valuable and why the next coin coming after this one in our lineup is even more mysterious. But I won't tell you its price yet, because as you listen to this story, that curiosity will keep tugging at you, making you wonder what could possibly top something already worth nearly $200 million. Now let's dive into why this unassuming coin changed everything for collectors, historians, and everyday people who suddenly realized that treasure hunting doesn't require shovels or maps, just attention and luck. The 2022 P-dime belongs to the Roosevelt dime series that has been in circulation since 1946, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark, and made primarily of a copper-nickel clad composition with a thin outer layer of cupronickel wrapped around a copper core. Nothing fancy at first glance. And that's exactly why the rare errors slipped by unnoticed. Because when billions of coins run through machinery at unbelievable speeds, perfection is a myth. And even the slightest malfunction can create something that breaks all the rules and all the price charts. Take, for example, the off-center strike errors, where the design is printed in the wrong spot, leaving blank crescents of exposed metal around the edges. Some of these 2022 P-dimes have been found with up to 70% off-center strikes, a condition so outrageous that collectors consider it nearly legendary. Then there are double die obverse coins where Roosevelt's profile looks shadowed or duplicated because the die pressed the design twice at a misaligned angle. You might see a doubled Liberty or distorted In God We Trust. And if you find one with both the doubling visible and sharp details unafflicted by circulation wear, you are clinging to a ticket worth more than most luxury cars. But then comes the monstrous rarity. Full planchet misfeeds where the blank metal disc was misaligned before striking and the minting dies left only partial imprints on the coin, resulting in ghost-like faces, blurry letters, or fragments of the torch and olive branch that look half erased by time itself. And when one such piece shows up graded in a flawless, uncirculated condition, the price rockets not by thousands, not by millions, but in one extraordinary auction into the nine-figure realm we just talked about. But let's not stop at striking errors, because the roller coaster doesn't end there. Some 2022 P-dimes have appeared with missing clad layers, meaning the thin outer metal sheath was never applied or fell off before or after striking, leaving a brownish copper core on one or both sides, a visual shock to anyone assuming all dimes must shine the same silver tone. Such transitional errors happen in only 1 in millions. But because the 2022 run was massive, it gave a sliver of possibility for mistakes that normally vanish during quality control. And these coins don't just spark interest, they start bidding wars. Yet what truly stirs the imagination is that some of these flawed coins have been discovered accidentally in everyday settings. Someone sorting change in a coffee can, a kid searching a coin jar for arcade money, or a collector casually checking rolls from the bank. Just imagine the shivers when they realize what they're holding might be the one that makes headlines. And while all that sinks in, remember this. There's another coin coming up after this one that people rarely talk about but should, and I promise by the time we reach it, you'll be imagining every coin in your drawer under a magnifying glass. What pushes the 2022 P-dime to such astronomical value is not just the rarity of the errors, but the state of preservation and the grading. Coins with mirror-like surfaces, free of scratches, and their original mint luster intact, are considered mint state. And the closer to a perfect MS 70 grade they get, the more the world is willing to pay. Knowledgeable collectors know that an error in poor condition is interesting but not historic, while one in pristine shape is a unicorn. And if that unicorn also has a dramatic double die, off-center strike, or missing layer, you've got something museums would request but private buyers would pay fortunes to own, as seen with the record-setting specimen valued at $190 million, which combined a dramatic off-center strike, doubling on the inscriptions, and a partial planchet exposure on the reverse, graded so perfectly that experts still argue how it even survived the minting process intact. But don't think all high-value finds come from auction houses. Some of the most surprising discoveries have come years after release, when people least expected it. One collector reportedly found a double-die 2022 P-dime and change at a diner, while another stumbled upon an off-center example while searching coin rolls from the bank. And these stories aren't folklore. They're reminders that checking your change can be as thrilling as discovering a secret passage in your house. And speaking of secrets, remember earlier I teased that another coin would follow this one? Well, the details of that coin are waiting, and its story is drenched in even more intrigue. So if your curiosity isn't burning yet, keep listening. Now, let's wander into the world of die cracks and cut errors, where imperfections in the die cause raised lines or deformities across the coin's surface. In certain 2022 P-dimes, cracks have run through Roosevelt's hair or along the rim, and in rarer cases, chunks of the die broke away, causing blank, blobby sections that distort the inscriptions or images, an error known as a cud. And collectors adore cuds because they are dramatic, easy to spot, and extremely scarce. The most prized examples combine multiple errors. Imagine a single 2022 P-dime that is off-center, doubled, missing a clad layer, and has a die cud distorting the date. That's not a coin. That's a once-in-history phenomenon. And for the lucky finder, it's a retirement plan disguised as pocket change. Let's not forget about strike-through errors, where foreign materials like grease, cloth, metal shavings, or even fragments of other coins interfere with the die's imprint, leaving bizarre textures and shapes embedded on the coin's surface. A known 2022 P-dime surfaced with a strike-through that created a ghostly imprint across Roosevelt's face, and the reverse torch looked melted because of it. A curiosity that experts immediately deemed one of a kind, and although it did not match the $190 million Titan, it still pulled an awe-inspiring six-figure valuation. And that's the thing. Most people assume only old coins are valuable, but the 2022 P-dime proved modern mistakes can eclipse ancient rarities. But what good is all this knowledge if it just stays in your head? Go grab your coin jars, check between your car seats, rummage through your backpacks and drawers, because the odds of having a normal one are high, but finding the single misprint among them could change everything. This is not just for serious collectors. This is for anyone with pockets. And before this story wraps up, let me repeat the small reminder after this coin. There's another one you'll want to hear about, an older dime with its own legend. And though I won't share its value yet, you'll want to be here when I do. Even the Philadelphia Mint, known for strict oversight, can't stop every flaw. Machines jam, dies misalign, planchets slip or crack, and inspectors can't check billions of coins individually. So those rare recruits slide into circulation disguised as ordinary money. And by the time someone realizes what they've got, auctions light up, headlines spike, and stories of lucky finds spread everywhere. And whether wrapped in rolls, clinking in pockets, or resting in a forgotten cup holder, a 2022 P-dime with the right kind of imperfection is a phenomenon waiting to be found. So keep listening and don't blink, because the next coin in our lineup has a twist that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about small change. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 2005 P1 dime. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. Imagine shuffling through a handful of loose change, hearing the soft clink of coins you've handled 1,000 times and not thinking twice about them. Because a dime is a dime, right? But hidden among those nearly weightless silver discs is the 2005 P1 dime. A coin so underestimated and so dangerously ordinary looking that people have spent fortunes without ever realizing it. This is the kind of coin that doesn't shout for attention. It hides in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little luck to uncover its secret. And the moment you understand what separates a regular 2005 P dime from the ones collectors whisper about, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Now, before we dive into the deep end, here's something you need to know right away. This coin, under the right conditions and with the right combination of mint errors and grade, has reached a staggering collector value of up to $76 million. And that number might sound unreal until you learn the truth about how some of these error coins slipped past the mint and into circulation. But don't forget, there were only two coins in today's lineup. The first one you just heard about stunned everyone, and this one has its own kind of madness baked into its history. So stay with me until the last word, because once this story unfolds, you'll understand why people check their change under bright lamps and magnifiers. Let's start with what the average person knows. The 2005 P dime is a Roosevelt dime minted in Philadelphia, bearing the P mint mark and struck with a copper-nickel clad composition. This was a year where production numbers soared into the billions, making it seem like nothing special could possibly come out of it. But here's the catch. With high-speed production comes high error frequency, when even the tiniest malfunction goes unnoticed. And that's where the treasures emerge, the mint machines. In 2005 had their share of imperfections, and those imperfections have turned a handful of these coins into multi-million-dollar artifacts. Take the double die obverse error, for example, where Roosevelt's profile, inscriptions like "In God We Trust," or the date show doubled outlines or slight shadows. On its own, a double die can make collectors stop in their tracks. But combine that with a flawless mint state surface and you're talking life-changing money. Then consider off-center strikes. Some 2005 P dimes were struck with drastic misalignment, leaving part of the coin blank and part of the design pushed toward one edge. A 5% off-center strike might get interest, but a dramatic 50% to 70% off-center error can send bids into the stratosphere. And when one of these surfaced in pristine condition, the frenzy was so intense that the final sale reached numbers most people couldn't believe, pushing the top record into the realm of tens of millions. But we're just getting warmed up. The missing clad layer errors are where things get even more exciting. Since Roosevelt dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between cupronickel layers, a missing top or bottom clad layer exposes the copper and gives the coin a warm, reddish tone instead of silver. And while modern clad layer errors happen rarely, the 2005 production year had a few. And when one appears with minimal circulation and sharp details, it becomes a magnet for investors and collectors who know these don't stick around long. Sometimes both clad layers are intact but improperly bonded, making the surface peel or look blistered, a striking defect that can create wild texture and color variations that specialists go crazy for. Then there are wrong planchet errors. Some 2005 dimes were struck on planchets meant for other coins, like cents or foreign currencies, leading to undersized or oddly colored dimes that weigh less or more than they should. These mismatched strikes are extremely rare and often escape detection until years later, when someone finally weighs the coin or spots the size difference. By then, the coin may already be worth a small fortune. And if you think that's extreme, wait until you hear about strike-through errors. Grease or debris caught between the die and planchet during production can leave ghost images, blank patches, or strange surface impressions that make the coin look melted or smudged. And when that happens near the inscriptions or Roosevelt's face, the effect is dramatic and collectors pay for drama, especially when the coin has survived untouched by circulation. But perhaps the biggest factor that made one of these coins soar to $76 million is the combination of error type and grade. Error coins are valuable, but perfect condition error coins are the crown jewels of the hobby. Imagine a 2005 P dime graded MS 69 or MS 70 with a huge off-center strike, doubled lettering, and a missing clad layer. Something so absurdly perfect that it seems like a custom creation, yet it's 100% accidental and authenticated, the kind of coin auction houses fight to showcase and museums get outbid trying to secure. Even more fascinating is that some incredible examples were discovered not in collections or coin shops, but in pocket change, in coin roll hunts from banks, even in coin jars in someone's basement. Regular people found fortunes without realizing what they had at first. Some stories tell of a dad checking pocket change with his kids and discovering an off-center 2005 P dime with doubling on the date and a faint strike through on the reverse. He almost spent it, then hesitated, got it appraised. And the rest is a story that ended in a private sale worth more than luxury homes in wealthy neighborhoods. The Philadelphia Mint's massive production in 2005 makes it easy to assume perfection was the norm. But the reality is that imperfections hide among the ordinary, and because so many of these coins look identical to the average eye, the odds of a rare one landing in someone's car cup holder or kitchen drawer are much higher than people realize. This is why coin hunters examine every detail: inscriptions, edges, weight, surface texture, rim alignment, and die rotation, even a slight rotated die. Where the front and back designs don't line up perfectly can skyrocket value, depending on severity and condition. And while the $76 million figure represents the most extraordinary combination of features ever documented for this coin, there are dozens of others worth tens of thousands to millions depending on their details. Collectors love to chase the unexpected, and the 2005 P dime provides exactly that. A modern coin with anomalies that rival the legendary mistakes of the past. It bridges the gap between everyday life and life-changing discovery, and sometimes all it takes is curiosity and awareness to turn metal into money beyond imagination. Now that both coins in this lineup have been revealed, think about how many times you've handled dimes without a glance. Think about the jars of change in kitchens, drawers at work, vending machine returns, car floors, and pockets everywhere. The people who dismiss this as luck are often the same ones who never look, and the people who check carefully are the ones who stumble upon miracles. The 2005 P dime is proof that modern coins are just as capable of hiding million-dollar secrets as ancient rarities locked away in museums. So before you spend your next dime without thinking, stop and look closely. That tiny coin might not just be 10 cents. It might be the moment everything changes for you. And unlike the first coin we discussed, this was the final one in this sequence. No more teases, no next reveal. Just the stunning realization that the fortune you're chasing might already be in your hand, your drawer, your old wallet, or your change jar. And the only question left is whether you'll check before someone else does. Next, 1981 dime. And what if I told you that a simple dime sitting in your pocket right now could be worth more than most people make in a month? You've probably handled thousands of dimes throughout your life, casually dropping them into vending machines or tossing them into tip jars, never giving them a second thought. But here's the shocking truth that coin collectors don't want you to know. There's a specific dime from 1980 that has been quietly making people rich, and it's been hiding in plain sight for over 4 decades. This isn't some ancient treasure buried in a pirate's chest or a rare artifact locked away in a museum vault. This is a coin that could literally be jingling around in your car's cup holder right now, worth an astounding $29 and climbing every single year. The 1980 P. Roosevelt dime represents one of the most overlooked gold mines in modern numismatics. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and why collectors are willing to pay serious money for what appears to be ordinary pocket change. But before we dive deep into this particular treasure, I need you to stick around because the coins I'm about to reveal after this one will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pieces that have sold for amounts that would make your head spin, including one coin that recently shocked the entire collecting community when it hammered for a price that defied all expectations, and another that was discovered in the most unlikely place you could imagine. The year 1980 marked a pivotal moment in American coinage history. Though most people walking around with these dimes in their pockets have absolutely no idea, they're carrying pieces of numismatic significance. The Philadelphia Mint, operating under the P Mint mark that wasn't even added to dimes until 1980, produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes that year. But within that massive production run, certain varieties emerged that would later become the holy grail for collectors who understand the subtle nuances that separate common coins from valuable treasures. What makes the 1980 P dime so special isn't immediately obvious to the untrained eye. In fact, you could stare at one for hours and not notice the distinguishing characteristics that make coin experts' hearts race with excitement. The magic lies in the details, specifically in what numismatists call die varieties and mint errors that occurred during the striking process at the Philadelphia Mint facility. During the production of 1980 P dimes, several fascinating varieties emerged due to die deterioration hub doubling, and other minting anomalies that created coins with subtle but significant differences from the standard issue. The most sought-after 1980 P dimes exhibit what collectors call repunched mint marks, where the P mint mark was punched into the dime multiple times, creating a slightly doubled or offset appearance that's visible under magnification. Other valuable varieties include those with doubled die characteristics, where elements of the design appear slightly doubled due to a shift in the die during the hubbing process. These aren't dramatic, eye-catching errors like you might see on some famous error coins, but rather subtle varieties that require a keen eye and proper lighting to detect. This is exactly why so many of these valuable dimes continue to circulate undetected. The average person simply doesn't know what to look for, and even many casual collectors miss these subtle but lucrative varieties. The Roosevelt dime series itself has a fascinating history that adds to the collectible appeal of the 1980 P variety. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death in 1945, the Roosevelt dime was designed by Chief Engraver John Sinek and has remained virtually unchanged for nearly 8 decades. Roosevelt's connection to the March of Dimes, his leadership during World War II, and his battle with polio made him a natural choice for this denomination, and the dime has served as a lasting tribute to his legacy. The 1980 P dime holds particular significance because it was among the first Roosevelt dimes to bear the Philadelphia mint mark, making it a landmark issue in the series. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia mint coins typically didn't carry a mint mark, so the addition of the P to dimes represented a significant change in minting practices that many collectors view as historically important. This historical context, combined with the various die varieties and errors that occurred during production, creates a perfect storm of collectability that has driven values steadily upward over the past 4 decades. When we examine the marketplace for 1980 P dimes, the numbers tell a compelling story of consistent growth and collector demand. Standard circulated examples of the 1980 P dime are worth face value, but the varieties and errors I mentioned earlier command significant premiums that have been increasing year over year. The $29 figure I mentioned represents the current market value for the most desirable varieties in uncirculated condition, but this number has been climbing steadily as more collectors become aware of these overlooked treasures. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified numerous examples of valuable 1980 P dime varieties, with the highest grade specimens commanding the strongest prices at auction and in private sales. The beauty of hunting for 1980 P dime varieties lies in the fact that they're still being discovered in circulation, estate sales, coin rolls from banks, and even in old piggy banks tucked away in closets and attics across America. Unlike many rare coins that disappeared from circulation decades ago, these dimes were produced in large quantities and have been hiding in plain sight ever since. Stories abound of lucky collectors who found valuable 1980 P varieties in their spare change, purchased them for face value from unsuspecting sellers, or inherited them as part of larger coin collections without realizing their significance. One particularly famous story involves a collector in Ohio who purchased a bag of circulated dimes from a local bank and discovered 3 different 1980 P varieties worth over $80 combined. Not bad for a $5 investment in face value coins. Another collector found a roll of 1980 P dimes at an estate sale and later discovered that several exhibited the repunched mint mark variety that dealers actively seek. These success stories aren't just urban legends. They represent the very real possibility that valuable 1980 P dimes are still out there waiting to be discovered by knowledgeable collectors who know what to look for. The technical aspects of identifying valuable 1980 P dime varieties require attention to detail and proper equipment, but they're not beyond the reach of dedicated hobbyists. A good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe is essential for examining the mint mark area, where most of the valuable varieties exhibit their distinguishing characteristics. The repunched mint mark varieties typically show a slight doubling or ghosting of the P mint mark, while double die varieties may exhibit doubling in the date, lettering, or design elements. Proper lighting is crucial for detection. Many varieties that are invisible under normal lighting become obvious when viewed under a strong, direct light source at the proper angle. Photography has also become an important tool for variety identification, as high-resolution close-up images can reveal subtle doubling and other characteristics that might be difficult to see with the naked eye. Many successful variety hunters maintain detailed photographic records of their finds, comparing them to known examples and reference materials to confirm their discoveries. The learning curve for identifying 1980 P-dime varieties may seem steep at first, but like any specialized skill, it becomes second nature with practice and experience. What makes this particular collecting niche so exciting is that the barrier to entry is incredibly low. Anyone with a few dollars can start searching through circulated dimes, and the potential rewards far outweigh the modest investment required to get started. Unlike collecting high-end rare coins that require thousands of dollars in capital, hunting for 1980 P-dime varieties can be done on any budget, making it accessible to collectors at all economic levels. The thrill of discovery, combined with the potential for significant financial return, creates an addictive hobby that has captured the imagination of thousands of collectors across the country. As we look toward the future of 1980 P-dime collecting, several factors suggest that values will continue to climb in the years ahead. The finite supply of these varieties, combined with growing collector awareness and demand, creates a classic supply and demand scenario that typically drives prices higher over time. Additionally, as more examples are pulled from circulation and placed into collections, the available supply for future collectors continues to shrink, adding scarcity premium to already desirable varieties. The rise of online collecting communities, social media groups, and educational resources has also expanded the collector base exponentially, bringing new enthusiasts into the hobby who are eager to find their own 1980 P treasures and willing to pay fair market prices for quality examples. But here's where things get really interesting. Because while the 1988 D. Roosevelt dime, and imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about valuable coins hiding in plain sight. Most people would glance at a 1988 D dime and see nothing more than 10 cents worth of pocket change, maybe even toss it into a fountain and make a wish, completely unaware that they just threw away what could potentially be worth an absolutely mind-numbing $122 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $122 million for a single dime that looks virtually identical to billions of others produced that same year at the Denver Mint. And this isn't some theoretical estimate or wishful thinking from overeager collectors. This represents the astronomical value that the right 1988 D-dime variety has achieved in the rarefied world of elite numismatics, where legendary coins change hands for prices that defy all logic and reason. The story behind this particular 1988 D-dime reads like something out of a treasure hunter's wildest dreams, beginning with a minting error so catastrophic yet so subtle that it went completely unnoticed for decades while millions of these coins circulated through the American economy, passed from hand to hand, spent at grocery stores and gas stations, collected in piggy banks and coin jars, completely invisible to everyone except the most eagle-eyed variety specialists who understand that. Sometimes the most valuable treasures hide behind a mask of absolute ordinariness. What makes this specific 1988 D-dime worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes isn't immediately apparent to casual observers, and therein lies both the mystery and the opportunity that continues to drive collectors absolutely wild with excitement. The Denver Mint in 1988 was operating at peak efficiency, churning out hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage across the United States. But during this massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong in the die preparation process that created what numismatic experts now consider to be one of the most significant minting errors in American coinage history. The technical details of this error are so complex and fascinating that they read like a thriller novel about industrial espionage and manufacturing sabotage. Except this story is completely real and the evidence is literally sitting in someone's pocket right now, waiting to be discovered by a collector knowledgeable enough to recognize its earth-shattering significance. During the hubbing process at the Denver Mint, where master dies are created from master hubs through a series of precise mechanical impressions, a catastrophic misalignment occurred that resulted in what specialists call a major double die error of unprecedented magnitude and clarity. This wasn't a minor doubling that requires magnification to detect, nor was it a subtle variety that only experts can appreciate. This was a dramatic, obvious, spectacular doubling that affected virtually every design element on both the obverse and reverse of the coin, creating what appears to be a ghostly double image that seems to float just behind the primary design, like a supernatural shadow frozen in silver-clad copper. The double die effect on this particular 1988 D-dime is so pronounced that Roosevelt's profile appears to have a phantom twin hovering just behind it, while the reverse torch, olive branch, and oak branch all exhibit the same dramatic doubling that makes the coin appear almost three-dimensional under proper lighting conditions. What makes this error even more remarkable is that it somehow escaped detection during the quality control process at the Denver Mint, allowing an unknown number of these spectacular error coins to enter circulation where they've been hiding for over 3 decades, waiting for their moment of discovery and recognition. The first confirmed example of this 1988 D double die dime was discovered in 2019 by a collector in California who was methodically searching through bank rolls of circulated dimes, a practice that most people would consider mind-numbingly tedious, but which occasionally yields discoveries that justify years of patient searching. When this collector first spotted the dramatic doubling on what appeared to be an ordinary circulated dime, he initially thought his eyes were playing tricks on him, but closer examination under magnification confirmed what he hardly dared to believe. He had found what would later be authenticated as the discovery coin of one of the most valuable varieties in modern American numismatics. The authentication process alone reads like a detective story, as the coin was submitted to multiple professional grading services and examined by dozens of variety specialists before the numismatic community finally accepted the reality of what had been discovered. Professional coin grading service eventually certified this discovery coin as authentic, assigning it a grade that reflected both its condition and its absolutely unprecedented rarity, while Numismatic Guarantee Corporation conducted their own independent analysis that confirmed every detail of the variety's legitimacy. The news of this discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting community that are still reverberating today, as dealers, collectors, and investors realized that potentially millions of 1988 D-dimes needed to be re-examined for this previously unknown but incredibly valuable variety. Auction houses immediately began fielding calls from consigners hoping to have discovered their own examples, while coin dealers started advertising premium prices for any 1988 D-dimes that exhibited even the slightest hint of doubling, creating a feeding frenzy that drove ordinary 1988 D-dimes to several times their face value purely on speculation. The $122 million valuation attached to the finest known example of this variety isn't just collector hyperbole or marketing manipulation. It represents the considered opinion of multiple professional numismatists who understand that certain coins transcend their metallic composition to become genuine artifacts of historical and cultural significance that command prices limited only by the wealth and desire of the most serious collectors. When you consider that single paintings have sold for over $400 million and rare diamonds have fetched similar amounts, the idea that a unique minting era representing a pivotal moment in American industrial history could achieve 9-figure pricing begins to seem not just plausible, but almost inevitable. The scarcity factor driving this astronomical valuation cannot be overstated, as current estimates suggest that fewer than 5 examples of this variety may exist in any condition, with only 1 or 2 specimens grading at the finest known level that commands top dollar in the marketplace. Unlike many valuable coins that exist in quantities of dozens or hundreds of examples, this 1988 D double die dime appears to represent a true one-of-a-kind minting phenomenon that may never be duplicated, making it not just rare, but essentially irreplaceable in the truest sense of the word. The story of how such a dramatic error could escape the Denver Mint's quality control systems remains a subject of intense speculation among minting experts and industry insiders who understand the rigorous inspection processes that were in place during the 1980s. Some theories suggest that the error dies were used during a night shift when supervision was less stringent, while others propose that the dramatic nature of the doubling actually made it less likely to be detected by inspectors who were trained to spot subtle varieties rather than obvious errors that seemed too dramatic to be genuine. Whatever the explanation, the fact remains that these coins entered circulation and have been hiding in plain sight for decades, creating the possibility that additional examples might still be discovered by collectors who know what to look for and where to search. The hunt for additional examples of this 1988 D double die variety has become something of a modern treasure hunt, with collectors methodically searching through estate sales, coin collections, bank rolls, and even circulation strikes in hopes of finding what could be their ticket to financial independence. Professional coin searchers have been known to purchase thousands of dollars worth of circulated dimes from banks and coin dealers, carefully examining each one under high-powered magnification in search of the telltale doubling that identifies this incredible variety. The process is painstakingly slow and often disappointing, but the potential reward of discovering a $122 million coin makes every hour spent searching seem worthwhile to dedicated variety hunters. Stories have already emerged of near misses and false alarms, as collectors discover other double-die varieties from 1988 that are valuable in their own right, but don't approach the astronomical level of the major double die that commands the headline-grabbing prices. The technical aspects of identifying this particular variety require sophisticated equipment and considerable expertise, as the doubling must be distinguished from other types of post-mint damage that can create similar-appearing effects without the same numismatic significance. Machine doubling, strike doubling, and other common phenomena can fool inexperienced collectors into thinking they've found the treasure of a lifetime, which is why professional authentication has become absolutely crucial for any potential discoveries.